Hide and clap's not as much fun when you're the only one in the house. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2013 supernatural horror film, The Conjuring. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all that extra content. The Conjuring stars Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, and Lili Taylor, and was directed by James Wan. Set in 1971, it tells the story of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren as they attempt to help a family experiencing increasingly disturbing occurrences in their new house. With the upcoming release of The Conjuring 3 this fall, hopefully, I thought it'd be the perfect time to begin revisiting all of the films in the Conjuring universe, beginning with the one that started it all, 2013's The Conjuring. With the extremely varied quality of the films in this now fairly expansive Conjuring universe, it can be easy to blanket dismiss the franchise as middling to poor modern horror. But if that's how you feel, you really need to revisit this first Conjuring movie, because this film really stands apart. It had probably been 5 years since I last watched this, and I remembered enjoying it quite a bit, but I somehow forgot just how good this movie is. Over these last few years, we've been experiencing a bit of a resurgence and revitalization of the horror genre. A24 has been at the forefront of that, but there have been a few solid major studio releases too. But I think we can trace this latest horror boom back to The Conjuring. It really changed the game and set the bar for movies to come, because it showed that you could craft a popular, well-received scary story without relying on gore, unnecessary jump scares, or any number of other tropes present in modern horror. But it wasn't just any old throwaway scary movie. It was a horror film whose inspiration has changed the landscape of the genre today. So why has it had such an impact? The Conjuring is one of the most effective and well-crafted horror films I've ever seen, and the reasons for that run basically the entire filmmaking gamut. One of the most vital aspects is that this movie takes its time to set up the story. I wouldn't consider this a slow burn, and it's definitely a very well-paced and exciting film, but it does take some time to build up, which I think is incredibly important. Think of how many horror films you've seen where right off the bat, crazy things are happening, and people are getting ripped apart, and demons are being summoned, and there's blood everywhere. It might be kind of exciting, but it's too much too soon. You don't know any of the characters outside of these horrific events, so when they stupidly go into an attic after hearing a creepy noise, you don't really care when they get eaten. But The Conjuring isn't structured like that at all. We're introduced to all of the characters before anything starts happening. The parents feel like a real family with their interactions with one another, and refreshingly, their responses to some of the strange occurrences also feel real. I mean, we're watching a horror movie, so we know something's going on, but the characters don't really at first, and reasonably so. 200-year-old houses make a lot of weird noises. They're not always level, and they're drafty, so doors might swing open and shut. Mice die in the walls, so they might stink sometimes. Clocks sometimes stop. Kids have nightmares and think they see things in the dark when they wake up. People forget that they smashed their shin while moving furniture and wake up the next morning with a mysterious bruise. Individually, these things all have rational explanations, and rather than jumping to silly conclusions, our main family here is reasonable and attributes things to those rational explanations. But rather than yelling at the screen for their perceived stupidity, we actually connect with them more, because we would do the same thing if we were in their situation. But that only works because of the slow build. It takes a while for these occurrences to reach that point of legitimate concern, and all throughout that time, the tension's slowly building, for the characters, but also for us as the audience. And the 3-act structure of the story very satisfyingly mirrors the 3 stages of possession that the Warrens talk about during their seminars. And so when things start to ramp up and reach their fairly wild conclusion, it feels earned. Something that might have seemed a little silly and eye-rolling had it been put in the first 5 minutes of the movie, instead is genuinely chilling. The finale delivers something a bit more tangibly like what you'd probably expect from a story like this, but it's greatly heightened by the creepiness and uneasy atmosphere that permeates this film from the start. Of course, this is only further enhanced by the fact that Ed and Lorraine Warren were real people, and this movie is a fictionalized account of one of their actual paranormal investigation cases. Speaking of Ed and Lorraine, I've obviously got to talk about them a bit. Their role in this story is very interesting, and I love the way that they're introduced and integrated. Right from the start, they're presented as professional paranormal investigators. The way they approach their work and the way that they talk about it with others is very precise and almost clinical. They aren't trying to scare people, so they come across as these very informative and experienced characters. And just like with the Perrons, we've had a bit of time with the Warrens outside of this particular haunting, so we've gotten a better sense of who they are than we would have if they had just been called in during the first 10 minutes of the movie. And I think the casting of Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson was a brilliant move. They have really good chemistry together and are definitely believable as these very analytical researchers. As somebody who was pretty interested in amateur paranormal investigation during my college years, I especially love the sequence where we get to see the Warrens conducting their investigation. So, the story and characters are great, and the expertly built up tension is palpable, but I'd be remiss not to mention the technical aspects of this film. I know we can all name at least a dozen horror movies that look pretty terrible. Sometimes that's part of the campy fun, but I think it's too often that things like shot composition, sound design, and even set decoration get ignored by horror filmmakers. So the genre kind of gets a bad rap for typically being of a lower filmmaking quality. But The Conjuring is excellent in that regard too. I had forgotten just how good the cinematography is here. There are some really great looking shots, including unique camera angles and dollying techniques, plus the sound design really heightens the tension in a non-jump scare kind of way. And on top of all of that, this movie's a period piece set in 1971, so it's got some great costumes and set design too. When a film kicks off with a song from my favorite album of all time, I know I'm in for something good. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one has got to be the tension. This movie builds up nearly perfectly. Things start off unsettling, but reasonably calm, and ramp up to the eventual horrifyingly wild conclusion. But because of the structure and pacing, it works from start to finish. It's never too slow, so there aren't any dull moments or scenes. Likewise, it never escalates so suddenly that you feel blindsided by new horror elements. It takes its time, one foot grab and slowly opening door at a time, to establish a thoroughly creepy atmosphere. So by the time bigger, more unexplainable things begin happening, we're already freaked out and on edge enough that we're immersed in it and totally buy whatever the movie wants to throw at us. The second pro is the story. Ever since the success of The Exorcist, we've been inundated with movies about exorcisms, demons, and haunted houses. So on paper, The Conjuring story might not initially seem that impressive. It's got elements of things we've seen plenty of times before, and even though the majority of the story isn't what I'd call over-the-top horror, it's still very effectively scary. Because it feels reasonable. The characters seem like regular people, and the slow build-up makes some of the things they're experiencing genuinely relatable to anybody. Even though it has some horror moments, it feels realistic and like it could happen, which I guess makes sense, because it did. Pro number three has to be the performances. You can have the creepiest story and the best looking movie, but without actors who can sell their roles in a believable way, you're not going to have a good horror movie. I mentioned Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson earlier, and I think they're a great fit for Ed and Lorraine, but the Perron family was well cast and well acted too. Kids in horror movies are almost always annoying to me, but there were 5 of them here, and I thought they all did pretty well. Ron Livingston was decent as the father, but Lili Taylor was the standout here as the mother. On the con side, I really only have some minor nitpicks here. I know the real Lorraine Warren was supposedly a clairvoyant, but the depictions of her visions, while pretty creepy, come off a little out of step with the rest of the tone. And the other little nitpick I have is regarding the subplot with the Warrens' daughter. It was fine and wasn't a big detriment or anything, but it didn't really add anything to the story and broke up the pacing just a little bit. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying The Conjuring or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give The Conjuring 4.5 out of 5 paws. This is such a well-made and deeply creepy horror movie that masterfully builds its tension up before letting loose in an incredibly chilling way. I would recommend The Conjuring To anybody who likes horror movies, this is one of the best horror films from the last decade, and as long as you like scary movies, I think you'll be satisfied. It's got the build-up and tension that'll be a draw to people who like atmospheric horror, but it's also fast-paced and wild enough by the end that fans of more standard modern horror will enjoy it too. If you liked The Conjuring, I've gotta recommend The Conjuring 2. Many of the other films in the Conjuring universe haven't quite lived up to the standards set by this first film, but the sequel sees the return of Ed and Lorraine as they tackle another case and is another really effective, tense horror film. If you want to see another demon-centric film featuring a female paranormal investigator, you should definitely check out Insidious. This one was also directed by James Wan, and also stars Patrick Wilson, but follows a slightly more typical horror movie route. And if you're interested in another very well-crafted horror film full of rising tension, you might want to watch Hereditary. It's another film that works its way under your skin and leaves you thinking about it long after the credits roll. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen The Conjuring? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite film featuring paranormal investigators? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.